UCLA's good buildup to the early signing day comes crashing to a halt. The Bruins class plummets to 107 in the national recruiting rankings. What's next? Bob Chesney's got a lot of work to do, especially on the D-line.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Thanks for your support. Welcome back, everydayers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. What we're talking about today is UCLA's Tim Skipper, former Tim Skipper, has found a new home. We'll discuss that at the end. Second segment, Sky Clark's got to keep up the production after a good game against Washington. Is it sustainable? But we have to lead with this. UCLA's early signing day was a bit of a dud. It was good, a mixed bag considering the Bruins are in a transition from no coach to new coach, and a new coach who's still currently coaching his other team into the conference championship game and potentially beyond in Bob Chesney. But the Bruins did their best to put together a class that once sat inside the top 10, hovered outside the top 20, and now has come crashing down to just outside the top 100, where just a few days ago, UCLA was inside the top 50, building its way back up. After 3 or 4 or 5 flips, UCLA saw its class go from 45 to 107. A huge 60-spot drop for a class that one time had close to 20-plus commits, round 18, then it was about 15, and the Bruins ended up with 12 hard commits. And even from the last time I recorded, UCLA has already seen guys decommit and flip, and let's discuss that. The Bruins need some big-time help on the D-line. Big-time help. Why? Because Carter Gooden, one of UCLA's biggest commits in this class from Massachusetts, top-rated player in that state in the Northeast, gone. Decommitted. You have UCLA, who had Micah Champ-Smith, a guy who kind of went both ways in high school, mainly an O-lineman. He decommitted and went elsewhere. Then you had the likes of Anthony Jones, a local Irvine product from Crane Lutheran. He, as of this recording, this day didn't sign an early signing day when most of the guys signed. Here has decommitted from UCLA, and I haven't seen where he's gone as of this recording, but he was the highest rated recruit in this class. Then, in one of the weirder, wackier signings, not signings, commitments, David Schwartzel, who I did an episode as a guy that could come in, had some good stuff written about him, was bouncing between UCLA, Stanford, UCLA commitment the night before early signing day. The Bruins had committed a nice, hefty NIL sum to him where you're like, okay. But then the thought was, talking to a source, maybe the Bruins maybe overpaid a little bit for David Schwartzel. The talent evaluation was a little different. He's a local Seattle kid who probably at heart always wanted to go to UW. So after some pretty big commitments from either UCLA, backs off because of the Deshaun Foster firing, Stanford then gets back to UCLA with another strong offer NIL-wise, goes to Washington after decommitting from UCLA, going to Stanford, recommitting to UCLA, decommitting from UCLA on signing day, and eventually signing with Washington with almost 2 commitments in like a 12-hour span. And you're like, wait, what happened with David Schwartzel? You just talked about him the other day. Well, it seems like he always maybe wanted to be a little bit closer to home, that the big offer from UCLA was something that didn't woo him as much as staying close to home, and maybe a development plan was better for him compared to the play right away opportunity that presents itself at maybe a Stanford as they rebuild, or a UCLA where they need talent on the D line. And the talent evaluation is a little different because Washington was not offering as much as UCLA reportedly was, 6 figures in NIL compensation from what my source is telling me. And in the end, when the Bruins thought they had somebody that could be an immediate impact guy in the D-line, UCLA loses him. And we'll see if he actually plays right away at Washington or if he needs to develop. And instead of taking the early payday, he's building for a later payday when he's more a developed product. So the talent evaluation seemed a little bit off between UCLA's recruitment of Schwartzel versus just desperation and need on the D-line. compared to what Washington's plan could be for him, building down the line where he's not going to play right away. And for UCLA, losing Anthony Jones here after a lot of these guys all signed meant the Bruins are left, according to the 24/7 Sports model, they have no four stars in this class. None. Anthony Jones decommitted according to Rivals, and the Bruins, they have no four stars in this class. Now, there are some steals. There are some good pieces in this class where you could have been stuck with much lesser classes. UCLA might even have more talent than anything Chip Kelly brought in high school-wise outside of Adante Moore because he never even tried. The Bruins recruiting staff tried their butts off to put things together when other schools are offering more money. Some kids are actually committing to you twice when you up the offer and still choosing to go elsewhere because of what's happening or maybe better development plans. And because UCLA is so needy talent-wise that sometimes you might put a kid into the foray and they might not be ready. So that was about 5 flips in the last couple of days for UCLA, losing Micah Champ-Smith, losing Torrey Davis, losing now 4 guys or 5 guys expected to go in the transfer portal. The 12 who have officially signed are as follows. Kenneth Moore III, a receiver. Camden Jensen, a Colorado tight end. You have Malachi Soliai-Tui, a linebacker. CJ Lavender from Mater Dei, and he's supposed to be an elite guy in the secondary who can come in, was one of the best Monarchs this year at picking off passes for a Mater Dei team that plays in one of the toughest leagues in the country. Then you got Logan Hyra, another safety. Cooper Jaworski, who recommitted, didn't bounce around after decommitting, committed to UCLA. Marcus Almada, who was the high school teammate of Carter Gooden, that stayed on the D-line. You have James Moffitt, who was another guy that UCLA got to flip at the last moment from Crespi, a 6'4 D-lineman. Marcus Keir and Major Pride, both receivers the Bruins pushed very hard. SoCal guys, one from the South Bay, the other one from Orange County, to rebuild the receiving talent. Matthew Moisau, younger brother of Darius, and then Giancarlo Serengino, who is a long snapper. So immediate impact guys, we'll find out. No 4 stars as of this moment. All those guys decommitted, flipped, went elsewhere, whether it's money, whether it's hesitation about the new staff, or guys are getting calls and they're getting new offers right on the verge of them trying to sign on the dotted line. And they're like, wait a minute, let's change this. So that Swerzel signing, or lack thereof, lack of commitment, was a pretty wild commitment for somebody who is viewed very differently by different schools as a 3-star product out from Seattle. Bruins are now open for business for D linemen. And it's going to be up to Bob Chesney to determine, is there anybody from the Sun Belt? Is there anybody from James Madison who he deems worthy to follow him from JMU to go from being a Duke to a UCLA Bruin? And now I haven't done the full research as to which one of those guys it could be, but James Madison, for the all Sun Belt lists, has 20 guys on that list when it comes to honored guys, all conference players. It's got to be a record, and Bob Chesney just won Sun Belt Coach of the Year. Their team is dominant and unbeaten in conference play. While UCLA on the offensive side of the ball had 1 Big Ten honoree, and that was Big Ten first team, second team, third team, honorable mention. Between 18 programs, yeah, you got to fight through a lot of talent, none of which stuck out. 1 offensive honoree. That was Garrett DiGiorgio. So Chesney, for a class that's now 107th, but the recruiting team did as much as they could to put together a 12-player class, some of which might contribute. But if we were looking for that overhaul class, overhaul of talent, it just kind of slowly dissipated right on the eve of signing day. So sad that's how it ended in some cases, but Chesney was probably always expected to go to the portal. Weird, wacky loss of a recruit to Swerzel to Washington. Jones is, I believe, uncommitted as of this recording, and the Bruins have to go back to the drawing board. But Chesney, remember, he could always start with Nico and see if he keeps him. His quarterback at James Madison is a redshirt junior, so if you want to see what happens at quarterback, those are things to look at. But in the end, the Bruins have to attack the O-line and the D-line. Because there wasn't a lot of talent on the D-line and there wasn't a lot of talent on the O-line. And that's where the Bruins got pushed around mightily this year in 2025, whether it's not protecting Nico or not generating any pass rush or getting run right down their throats again and again and again. Next, we're going to talk about Sky Clark and his potential developments in now his second year at UCLA. Can he be that baller that came out of Montverde Academy after his high school prep career? And why that 20-plus point outing against Washington could be a sign of things to come instead of just an outlier. Next on Locked On UCLA. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share those memories. Because Aura isn't just your average picture frame. You preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Would you give this to? Well, think about this. Whether you're in a newlywed and you can upload the pictures for the weddings or for their build up as a couple or youngsters, for your parents to remember all the fun stuff for their future grandchildren, or as you as a youngster, or your grandparents who maybe they're not as fluent with the apps. Well, you can upload that bad boy for them and see them smile and cry, tears of joy for all the good stuff. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used and not forgotten in a drawer. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. By using promo code COLLEGE at checkout, that's auraframes.com. Using the promo code COLLEGE. The deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames will sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Cruising on here on Locked On UCLA, the Bruins, man, oh man. Well, they survived one at Washington, and I'm going to focus in on one player here. That is Sky Clark. Everybody's looking at Donovan Dent to be a big baller. Trent Perry's growth is immense, but Perry's out. I'm not sure how long that'll be after suffering an ankle injury in practice on Monday. You have Donovan Dent, who Coach Cronin said after the game is dealing and has been dealing with a previous oblique injury and a foot injury. And the one guy who seems to be the most healthy physically is Sky Clark, the one who is capable of going off and has the most consistent three-point shot in the backcourt, more than a Jamar Brown, more than Donovan Dent for sure. And Trent Perry can't shoot it, but it's Sky Clark who is that elite three-point shooter. Clark in this game went 7 for 9 from the floor, 25 points, 6 of 7 from 3 in 39 minutes. Now, the more minutes he plays, obviously that might wear and tear over the season affect the jumper, but this is a guy who last year at UCLA ended up averaging 8 points per game. When he came from Louisville, albeit a bad Louisville team, he was the team's leading scorer, about 13 points per game, and ended on an absolute heater with 33 points against an NC State team that was en route to the Final Four at the time. So he put up some big buckets against an NC State team that was going places in his last game in a Cardinal uniform. Found his way back to UCLA, coming back to SoCal. And last year wasn't exactly the year he hoped. But the way Clark ended the season in 24 to 25 was something that was somewhat notable. The last 4 games, Sky Clark shot 48% from 3. He averaged about 14 points per game, had double figures in 4 of his last 5 games. And this year, UCLA has seen Clark have his first couple of 20-point games in a Bruins uniform. Last year, Clark didn't have a single double-figure output until the Arizona game in mid-December last year. Only had a couple through the first couple of months of play, didn't put up double figures until a win against Iowa. And then really the back half of the schedule, Clark was more of a consistent scorer and getting real buckets. Now the problem is when you see him getting red hot, it's because he's made 4 more threes. Sometimes he'll shoot 3 of 3, 2 of 4. You're like, okay, this guy can be a good three-point shooter. Last year, Clark, a 39%er. For Clark, when he was at Louisville, 13 points per game, ended his Louisville career with 36 points against NC State, 5 of 5 from the free throw line, 7 of 9 from downtown. So that type of efficiency from 3 from Clark has been seen before. So it's not like, oh, this was one night out of a million for Clark. This is something he has proven he can do before. So when Clark is hitting almost every shot, he's 7 of 9 against Washington, 6 of 7 from 3. Very similar numbers to what he put up against NC State in his last ever Louisville game a couple years ago. I think Clark should be getting the ball more. The Bruins should be getting him more shots if he's on a heater like this. Right now, Clark in his last couple of games has had his first two 20-point games as a UCLA Bruin. 22 points against Presbyterian when he was 9 of 11 from the floor, cutting and getting to the hoop again and again. Had some bounce, some sneaky bounce coming off the dribble, dunking the basketball. But namely, he is a really good shooter. This year, Clark, after his dominant three-point shooting percentage against Washington, is 51% from three, 16 for 31. And if he is red hot, like he was against Sac State, especially against Washington, he should be getting 30 points. If he's that hot, UCLA shouldn't go through a lull at the end of the game against the Huskies where, okay, we can put this game to bed. Well, why are we running a milk the clock offense and get a little lost these last 4 minutes, a little lost those first 4 minutes, when we realize the middle part of the game, Clark was really dominant. Outside of like a 5-minute stretch from Tyler Bilodeau where he was getting every bucket, that ball should be getting back to Sky Clark. And I know Dent can get to the hoop when he's healthy anytime he wants. He's so shifty, can just kick it out to the corner. There are times I saw Dent pass up layups to give an open three to Clark in the corner, and that should be something that happens every time. Now Washington had their own injuries to deal with. Clark's not always going to be asked to play 39 minutes a game, but man, oh man, if he's shooting as well as he can be a 14-point per game scorer for UCLA. He doesn't need to score 20, and I know I'm making a big deal of him scoring 20 or more points, but he did that more regularly as a Louisville Cardinal, as the go-to guy. Now, as a guy who can spot up, hit threes, get his own off the dribble, we shouldn't see a guy who sometimes has low output games like he did. 8 points against West Georgia, 9 points against Arizona. Now, it's a little different because Arizona's pretty stout defensively. They're big on the wings and probably made it hard for him to score. And if Dent wasn't healthy, probably couldn't get to Clark in some open shooting lanes. But man, since these last couple of games, since that Arizona game, he's been shooting it pretty red hot. Better than 50%, 50% or better in 3 of the last 4 games. And that's where we've seen a lot more output from Clark scoring-wise. Now, Cronin's going to look at it differently. You got to play defense. You got to have deflections. You need strong rebounding from guards. He was in foul trouble against Cal, so only played 22 minutes, and the Bruins truly needed him. So if he's on the court, he's a guy that can score. Right now, after the Washington game, Clark is a 12.5 point per game scorer. Prior to the Washington game, he was still averaging almost 11 points per game. So this is a guy who, if EDJ is not showing up, Eric Daly Jr. had like nothing to give for UCLA in this Washington game, and I think that's an outlier. Trent Perry's gone. Dent is still recovering. Bilodeau is still recovering, and he was cramping up. Clark is a capable dude. It's supposed to be a Dent and Clark backcourt that can do so much for UCLA. And I'd like to see that scoring output be consistently 12 to 14 points. Cronin before the season said UCLA needs to have consistent EDJ games. When he scored 10 or more points, the Bruins were almost unbeatable last year. A little bit different this year now that there's more to go around, especially on the wing, and he's shifted from the 4 to the 3. But Clark needs to have those consistent games. When he has scored 10 or more points this year, UCLA is unbeaten. When he scored less than 10 points, the Bruins struggled against the West Georgia at times. Lost to Arizona. When he's in foul trouble and couldn't shoot it against Cal, UCLA lost to Cal. So far, we've seen half the games where he scores more than 10 and the Bruins are able to put these teams away. And when he doesn't, you see a lot less production offensively. Because then the Bruins are relying on Jamar Brown, Trent Perry, EDJ, Bilodeau to shoot the threes, which is a good combined group. But Clark is clearly the best three-point shooter on the team right now. Clearly. He's been the last 2 years. So why not get him more shots, more volume of shots? And right now, he's also an 85% free thrower. Let him drive a couple of times to the hoop so you don't wear down Donovan Dent here in the early part of the season, just taking the contact, not finishing at the rim, and let Clark take a couple blows where he's probably the healthiest guard instead of just putting the wear and tear on Perry when he comes back, on Donovan Dent as he works through injury, while UCLA is trying to win some of these early Big Ten games and non-conference games to build a tournament case. Because right now, the Bruins are a bubble team. A win at Washington is huge, around a quad 1, quad 2 victory, depending on where Washington goes for UCLA on the road. But it's nice to see Clark put in numbers. That can be more consistent than, up and down games. We can see 12 nights every night and see it reflect in a 25 to 30. But if he's hitting his three-point shot as well as he was against Washington, I want him taking all the shots. And then if he's not shooting it, everybody down low should be feeding a Bilodeau, a Booker, a Jamerson. It should lead to easy shots in the paint if they're going to key in so much on Clark's shooting. It frees up Dent to drive. It frees up other guys to go one-on-one. Yet, if Clark is shooting almost 80% from the floor, almost 80% from three, he better be scoring 30 points, and the Bruins better force feed the man, and Cronin's got to tell him to shoot, shoot, shoot. Because he had his highest output of the season last year against Tennessee, and that's when he was in foul trouble hitting a bunch of threes. His next highest output was also against Utah State, or one of them, to end the year. So if you take that end-of-year momentum and start building it as we get into Big Ten play, we can see Clark turn into that guard that's hitting big threes for a UCLA March Madness run. Every March Madness run, whether it's a Cinderella, a good team, has that dude that hits clutch threes. Clark is that guy for UCLA. He absolutely is. So let's see if that production can continue throughout the rest of Big Ten play. Next, let's talk about Tim Skipper's new home, because he's already got a head coaching job here in December. Next on Locked on UCLA. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. Receiver gets hot, defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. There's the live spreads and money lines as they adjust instantly. The one I'm going to take you to, Raiders Broncos. It's in Vegas. Broncos are on an absolute streak. So let's tell you, the Raiders are a 7.5-point underdog at home to the Broncos. I'm a big Raiders fan, but I'm going to tell you, you might want to put it on the Broncos. Yes, they're struggling, but it's indoors, and I think they'll outscore the Raiders by more than a one-possession game. Put your money on the Broncos. So if you want to get right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Cruising on here in Locked On UCLA, UCLA's former head honcho, no, not Deshaun Foster. We're talking the interim head honcho. That was Tim Skipper. Skipper did a masterclass in UCLA beating Penn State, led the Bruins to 3 wins that even had some of us believing that the mathematical possibility of the Bruins getting to a Big Ten championship game was possible until the ball was kicked off against Indiana. We realized, nope, this is a bad football team. But anyways, Tim Skipper got the Bruins to 3 wins. And I know maybe it seemed like at times it was pretty harsh, but the fact that he's trying to make it clear, he's not going to be the head guy at UCLA. He has an opportunity to go somewhere else, and he has that opportunity because he was at UCLA for a hot minute and inspired the team to get some wins, play well in games that they're not probably expected to be competitive in. And while there were a couple of questionable decisions, the amount of aggressive calls that he got to be successful, whether it was fake punts, whether it was an onside kick against Penn State, the crazy amount of plays that we can go to this season, Skipper generally had a successful rate when the Bruins are playing with house money and had not a lot to cheer for. All right. So Tim Skipper is now the head coach of Cal Poly up in San Luis Obispo. All right. And if you're like, okay, the UCLA program is in disarray, well, that is a program in the Mustangs in San Luis Obispo that's been in disarray. Now, they're currently getting ready to build the John Madden Football Center because John Madden did go to Cal Poly way back when in the day. If you didn't know that, you should. He was a Central Coast guy from Cuesta Hancock, and then went to Cal Poly, and that's something you don't know. They're building a John Madden Football Center. But if you're like, okay, he should do much better, it's the FCS. Cal Poly is a program that has been perpetually underperforming for many years. Since the mid-2010s, Cal Poly started as a triple option team and then found themselves firing their coach or parting ways. And then they went to a national championship winning head coach. Bo Baldwin of the FCS was there for 3 years. Bo Baldwin then turned down a big contract extension and pay raise to go be the offensive coordinator of first-year head coach Kenny Dillingham at ASU. Well, by the middle of that year, you had a Bo Baldwin who had lost play calling abilities, and then is kind of a coach on the outs, went to Canada. I'm not sure what his coaching career is next. Then Cal Poly, after being spurned by Bo Baldwin, went to Paul Wolf, who coached there for the last 3 years and didn't have a winning record. Cal Poly didn't have better than a 2-win season under Bo Baldwin, and Tim Walsh didn't have a winning season his last 3 years running the triple option at Cal Poly. So Skipper has taken over a program that is trying to be on the rise, but hasn't had more than 4 wins since the 2018 season, and hasn't had a winning campaign since the 2016 season when they made the playoff and lost to San Diego in the first round, hosting on a Thanksgiving weekend. So Skipper is going to have to breathe some life. An infusion of infectious energy is what he's going to have to bring, the positivity, the good vibes, and hit the ground hard running with recruiting. It's like, hey, not many coaches come there and can say they beat Penn State. All right, they beat James Franklin, and James Franklin was still one of the hotter coaching names on the market to go to Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech is excited to have him. Tim Skipper and UCLA beat him. Beat him, all right? In one of the more crazy coaching jobs we've ever seen. In an individual game, obviously some standout performances, but Skipper gets a 5-year deal to go to a place that I know fair too well. I was there at Cal Poly for a few years from 2019 to 2023, so I know all about that program. I've seen the highs, well, maybe not so highs, a lot of lows. So if you look at this and you see in a few years that Tim Skipper hasn't had success at Cal Poly, I'm going to tell you one thing. It is not a Tim Skipper thing. That is a place that has been failing to succeed football-wise for a while. They're getting a new athletic director, redesigning the stadium, having a new John Madden Football Center, which is supposed to be one of the nicer facilities to that program, to that campus, which is also an elite academic institution like a UCLA. And we bid Tim a good farewell and good luck, because that place has been impossible to win for a decade. Now, if Tim Skipper goes and turns around a Cal Poly football program that has not seen any success, whether it's been transitioning from the triple option to a spread to a coach that's had success before in Paul Wolf at Eastern Washington, they've had national championship winning head coach have no success there. That's what they're trying to transition to in and out of from COVID. Over the last few years, Cal Poly has combined for, if I'm doing quick math, 14 wins since the aftermath of the 2019 season. 14 wins. That includes a shortened 2020 season, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. That's 6 years, and they've got 14 wins. That's a little over 2 wins per season. So what Tim Skipper is walking into is a mighty coaching job. And of course, he went to Fresno State. So that's a guy where Central Coast, semi-close to where he played his college ball in the Central Valley. Maybe they get a game against Fresno State down in a couple of years. Who knows how that scheduling will work for them. But if he turns around that program, he will be one of the hottest names on the market in 4 to 5 years, or 3 years if he turns it around that quickly at the FBS level, and will be back up competing against the Bruins in no time. But if he doesn't succeed, we still wish him the best. Because I'm telling you, Cal Poly, as much as you've heard about the worst parts of UCLA, that is a tough place to win in San Luis Obispo. I've seen it firsthand. So regardless of if there's success or not, he is taking a huge undertaking, which he had to deal with at Fresno State, his alma mater, when Tedford was in and out. And then he had UCLA, a dumpster fire, trying to help out his boy Deshaun Foster, had to pick it up and keep the pieces together. So we bid him farewell in the best of terms. We thank you, Tim Skipper, for doing what you did, keeping the energy there. Of course, there will always be a couple questionable calls, but generally, the aggressiveness, the enthusiasm, the positivity will be reflected in UCLA's biggest upset in many, many years, in making sure the Bruins had a win this year when it didn't look like they would, and not just one, but up to 3. And while it was only a 3-win season, he did a much better job. And if he was coaching from the beginning of the season, UCLA could have had 5 wins, or dare I say even flirted with a real bowl game in 2025 for a bad team. Because that's how much different UCLA played, how much better they played when he was a part of the coaching staff. Things to take note of. But Tim Skipper, a 5-year deal at Cal Poly. His press conference will be coming up pretty soon. Maybe Bob Chesney and Tim Skipper will have press conferences at the same time. Who knows? But for now, we bid Tim Skipper a farewell and good luck in your new stomping grounds. It's beautiful up there. But have a good time, Tim. Till next time, hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.